Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Own Your Essence podcast, where we get to have deep transformational conversations with some of our favorite people. I'm your host, April DeMille, and today our guest, her name is Pearl, and she is the Say Yes to Your Life coach, author, national speaker, and Soulful Self-Care Retreat facilitator. One second. That seemed very wordy for me. Oh, it's a mouthful. I was just reading your introduction and I was like, wow, that was kind of a mouthful. But you know what I didn't do was I didn't share your last name. Can you do that? Because I was scared I was going to butcher it and say it wrong.
It's okay. Everybody always butchers it. The C is like an S, so it's Chiarenza.
Okay.
If my father-in-law was alive, he'd tell you to roll the C. So I'm like, the day I married him, I'm like, Dad, I love you, but I cannot roll an R. I'm not rolling a C. So it's
Yeah.
Chiarenza.
My tongue doesn't work that way. I can't do it. I think I'm a little debilitated there.
Me
So
too.
yeah, so thank you for that. And I was so I'm one of those to just kind of jump in. Do you want to share a little bit about how you came, I guess, through your journey from people pleasing into being a say yes to your life coach?
Yeah. So wow, it's been 2015. So it's been a good 10 years almost. I was in just the health and wellness field. I was helping clients with a specific program on weight loss, and I was working with a coach. It was her clinic at the time. And so if you went into her office and you didn't follow the program, you felt like you're at the principal's office, right? And so I often would have my clients come in. I'd be like, okay, so what about choosing that cupcake was in your mind that was going on that you wanted to go for that cupcake? So because I was getting on what's happening between our ears, I started having clients go, Pearl, will you talk to my friend? Like she doesn't need to lose weight, but you're so great about getting into the mindset piece. So as that went on, I was like, okay, maybe I want to make a switch. Maybe this is a sign. Because I was doing these free coffee dates or tea dates because I don't drink coffee. And so I decided to go on the realm of trying to do certification for life coaching. So I took this course. It was called Identity and Destiny. And so at the end of 6 weeks, we had to give our I am statement. I still, at the end of 6 weeks, kept saying I was all my titles. I was a mom, a wife, volunteer, all these things.
Okay.
And my accountability partner in the course is like, where have you been for 6 weeks? Like, have you not paid attention? And I was like, man, I'm just not getting this. We tried for 10 years to have a family. We adopted our oldest son, Matthew. A couple years later, we did in vitro. So after those 10 years, I just kind of dove into this world of this title of mom and wife. And so I decided I got to do something. So I literally told my husband and my kids, my oldest is a senior in high school. I was like, I got to figure out who I am, what I want to do. So I may not show up for things. I may come home and get in my room and either read a book or take a bubble bath, whatever that is. And so one time I was heading into this network meeting and I would say yes to every opportunity I could, even if it didn't align with me. And so I saw this rock on the ground. I was like, oh, it's a beautiful rock. I picked up and just kind of put it in my pocket, didn't think nothing about it. So I went into this meeting and somebody had asked me if I would help do this fundraiser for animals. And my hand literally went across my pocket for whatever reason. It was a God moment. And I was like, no, I can't do that. And literally, just like I said it, it's just how it came out of my mouth.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I don't like it. I love my cats, I love my dogs, but I just don't want a fundraiser for animals. And so, I walked out of there going, I didn't get struck by lightning. They're still talking to me. So I
Yeah.
decided saying no is not so hard. I got to work on it. So I decided to take this rock because I felt like that was a sign from God. And I used that to move that rock 3 times a day to saying no to something or someone. And I made a
Okay.
commitment that when I came home, if I had not done that 3 times, I either had to call, email, or text somebody to tell them no to something they had asked me to do. And what I found was
Okay.
I became stronger in like being able to say no. It didn't
Hmm.
hurt, I felt fine. I was sleeping better at night, so I wasn't having these stress worries, wake up calls, in the middle of the night. So I was happier.
Yeah.
I became more empowered to do things that out of the box, like speak on stages. I'd never spoke on stages before, and write books about it. And then as that happened, I noticed, it took about 3 to 4 months for this transformation started really happening. And people were like going, like, what's so different about you, Pearl? Like you've got this like glow. Like, did you cut your hair? Did you lose weight? I'm like, no, I called it my radiant glow up. And the funny thing is the O, because I talk about being a SHERO of your life, the O stands for being my original self. Growing up, I wanted to be a teacher. I didn't have the opportunity to go to college to become a teacher. None of that happened for me. And
Hmm.
so now here I was teaching other women because most women are people pleasers, how to start showing up and saying yes to their life. And so as I was doing that, I realized you can say no as happy as we say yes. And so
Hmm.
that's what led me into this say yes to your life coach, realm that I'm doing today, is stepping forward and being like, it's okay to say no, like you just won the $1.7 billion lottery that was here the other day. It's not gonna, you're not gonna get struck by lightning, because if we don't put ourselves first, if we, the cliche pour into your cup, it's not just a cliche, it's reality. If you don't overflow your cup, you're going to be resentful. You're not going to like things you have to do. You
Right.
feel like you're committed to things. And so when you do, that's when things change. And for me, I mean, we were talking earlier, you were on my show a couple of years ago. I had just lost my son when you and I met over 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And literally like 2 days before he passed, my boys saw me become this person that I had not been before.
Right.
And literally 2 days before he passed, he was like, Mom, can you throw me a bottle of water? So I chucked the bottle of water in the garage, not thinking nothing about it. He's like, man, now that you figured out who you are, he said some other words, but now that you figured out who you are, but you finally can throw something because I can never throw him a football. So to have that affirmation from him, especially 2 days before we lost him, was
Yeah.
like going, I'm doing something right. I'm on the right track, right? And so I that's where I came up with my SHERO method. That's why I say I'm a say yes to your life coach,
Yeah.
because truly, April, like we're not promised tomorrow, as you and I both know.
Yeah.
And so, I always say to the first thing I ask my clients is, let's talk about what your joy list is, because if I'm not here tomorrow when you come to my funeral and you're at my eulogy, I don't want you to talk about my titles. I want you to talk about the things you saw me do.
Right.
And so that's why I'm gonna say yes to your life coach.
Yeah. And I love that mission because I know that everyone struggles with some sense of people pleasing, and those, unhealthy patterns that we can fall into when codependency, people pleasing, however you want to look at it. And like you mentioned, I had the pleasure of meeting you a couple of years ago, but not for necessarily the greatest reason. Like we don't, I mean, it's great that we got to meet and share our journeys together, but it's not always the best ideal situation to be like, hey, we both have dead children. Like,
Right.
that's not
Right.
always the funnest way to meet anyone. But
Right.
I love that you're making an impact and helping people, get control back of themselves, their lives.
Yeah. It's so interesting how this has evolved since Matt's passed too, because I can't tell you like how many people in my bubble of friends have lost a child. Like
Mhm.
when Matt passed, like I had 6 people like, oh my God, like I that were related somehow to Matthew, friends. And since then I've had some of his close friends, their parents have lost a child. And
Yeah.
and so it's becoming this, it's evolving more. I'm actually going to start getting grief coaching certified, because I feel like there's this calling,
Yeah.
especially for moms,
It is.
yeah, it's a huge need, I think. And to understand that we still can live, and we can still lead a life. And while we're still honoring them and we're carrying their memory with us, and trust me, it's not perfect every day. I mean, literally the other day, I went to go see a friend who was in town. On the way home, I just had this calling. I did a post on my Instagram where I show myself I was called to go visit him at his graveside. And,
Yeah.
so it's like living in our moments and allowing our emotions to come is also part of saying yes to your life. Like we
It
can't
is.
fear
And I'm
yes.
actually glad you said that because one of the questions I was going to ask is, what does the self-care transition look like even when we're navigating our own journeys of loss? And how
Yeah.
does that change as opposed to what it looked like before? You know?
Yeah, and that's a great question, because since you and I have met, my younger son got married last October.
Oh, congrats. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
we're coming up on 1 year. And so it's like you have this pull of like, you're grieving, but great things are happening. And so it's like trying to figure out how the balance of them go, because
Yeah.
life is never in balance. I call it harmony. If I can have harmony in my life, then I'm doing good.
Yeah.
And finding ways to honor Matthew and his memory, and also being present in the moment of course, a beautiful wedding. And my husband and I, we just did our bucket trip. We just got back like not even 2 weeks ago from our bucket trip to Greece. We did an 11-day trip over to Greece, and it's something that we had planned before Matthew passed, and we kind of just put it on a shelf, and we're like,
Right.
it's time for us. So yeah, it's hard to navigate. I have friends who in the same world of losing a child who, they don't even get out of bed right now every day. And
Yeah.
and it's their journey. Like you cannot tell somebody how to do their journey of grief.
No.
And I think I'm blessed because of the fact that I am the coach that I am and because I've done the work that I did for myself.
Hmm.
And also, I think too, like having that affirmation from Matthew, it's like I cannot go backwards because I'm really not honoring him. However, I can say every morning, today's going to be a good day. And if something happens, if something a wave comes, I honor the wave. I recognize the wave. I'll talk to him, be like, okay, you're not allowed to do this to me today. I have this whole conversation. My husband laughs at me sometimes. I'll have it out loud with him.
Yeah.
But I think that, we have our own dash that we have to live.
Yeah.
And if we don't live our dash because somebody that we love close to us, whether it's a child and I've lost my in-laws, I've lost other family members. Losing our child is it's not a loss I want anybody to join this club in.
No, it's
And,
it's the worst. There's
yeah,
no comparison at all.
there's none. However, I still say to, honor the fact that we have to, honor our grief journey. We have to not suppress it because suppressing it doesn't do us any good. It's going to creep up at some point or another.
Right.
And then we also have to understand that, my husband's journey is quite different than my journey.
Right.
My son Nate's journey is very different in my journey, and just being present and showing up. And there's no map. If somebody's listening, and they think there's a roadmap, throw it away because there is no roadmap. And if somebody tells you there's a roadmap and I hear all the time, oh, there's these steps to grieving. There's no steps. I mean, you're going to go through stuff. I mean, of course, I had the
Well, and
anger.
even the
You know,
clinical cycles don't mean shit. They mean
no.
nothing.
No, they don't. And so I just I tell everybody that asks me how I'm doing, I'm like, today's a good day, today's a good day. And if I'm having a heavy day, I'll tell them today's a heavy day, and I'm
Hmm.
very honest about that. Like literally, I'm planning a retreat in less than 10 days from now. I'm doing my ninth annual pajama retreat, the self-care retreat
Also,
for women.
congratulations. Big
Yes,
things happening.
yes, thank you very much. And in the middle of all this, we're also getting ready for our 10th one next year to launch that at this retreat. But I also have moments of grief. I have to, I recognize both of those that come up and I have to honor that. And I'm surrounded by some amazing women who have been with me on this journey. When I started this whole SHERO movement, it was just before COVID. And then during COVID, I saw this need where women were overwhelmed, stressed out, didn't know what to do because they're being teachers. And, I call it, I need a Calgon take me away moment, but I can't leave
Yeah.
my house.
Yeah.
And so I started this 30-day self-care challenge and it's grown. And those women who started there, some of them are still with us, from 4 or 5 years ago. And at this retreat, it's our ninth one. We have some women that are coming for the fourth or fifth time. So,
Yeah.
I've got these great connections. I've got great support as well. So, and going back to what you said, there's no right or wrong answer. I just get up every day and I'm like, today's going to be what it is.
Yeah.
And I will honor, what that is. It's so funny because every morning since Matt has passed, when I walk his dog out the front door, there's the same butterfly. It's been there for the past 3 years. It's the
Wow.
craziest thing. And then anytime I go on a long trip, a song that we played at his service that he loved comes on my radio. So I know that he's with us in the signs. People say, oh, that's cliche. And so people have different beliefs on that,
And that's
But for
fine if
me,
they want to live
yeah,
that limited mindset. That's okay.
yeah. And for me, it's like this is what I believe, and this is, and so, it's an honor to, I tell me it's an honor to have raised Matthew for 25 years.
Yeah.
We were honored to adopt him. We got to adopt him. So it's been a blessing. As much as it's hard to lose him, it's also I think for me, it's been a bigger blessing to have had him in my life than a loss of him in my life, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally makes sense. It's funny that you say that because I I can easily say that had I not lost my daughter, I wouldn't be able to recognize grief in my life at all. So even
Right,
though I'd lost a parent and, all those things, I didn't know what that meant. I knew it meant I went through something hard, but I didn't know how to unpack the stuff. I didn't even know you were supposed to do something with that stuff, let alone honor the stuff, right?
right.
And so had I not gone through such a traumatic shift with her loss, I wouldn't have ever been in this place where I go, oh, this grief is sacred
Yeah,
and it
yeah,
deserves so much space and you have to honor it because then you start having health issues and all the things and I did. And so my journey was different than yours because you kind of already came equipped with some coaching.
right,
I did not. Like I had
right.
this spiritual connection because of the psychic mediumship, but I didn't necessarily have all the other tools that I have now. And so I did spend a lot, I want to say at least that first year and a half, like in bed all the time, couldn't
Mhm.
function, couldn't move, couldn't human at all.
Right.
Like, and it took a lot for me to come out of that. Luckily, I did, right? And
Right.
it's always still a process every day. But I can honestly say that had I not gone through that grief, I'm not sure I would still know how to honor it at all.
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting. As you're saying that, I'm thinking of there's a lady on Facebook. I've reached out to her a couple of times. She's lost two of her children.
Oh, it's
One
the
he
only
was
thing worse than losing a child
it,
is to lose
it's
more than one.
losing two, and one was from something happened to her son with an accident, and so he lived for a while longer, and then unfortunately she lost her son. I mean her daughter, excuse me, due to bullying at school, and her daughter took her own life. And I follow her on Facebook, I follow her on TikTok, and I reach out to her and make comments and everything as for support. And it's interesting to watch how people respond to how, and even to me, nobody's actually physically told me to my face I need to move on, because I think if they
Oh,
did
I've
I'd be
heard
in
that.
jail.
I had
But
people say it to my face.
I probably would be in jail, God bless you.
Yeah,
So but I watch them comment, some of the comments to her, or she'll share, and I'm like, you can tell it's people who have not lost a child, because they don't
right.
know. Because just like you just said, losing my, I mean, I've divorced my parents because of narcissism and gaslighting with my parents, but I had amazing in-laws. Like I met them at 19 years old, and they showed me what like real parental love was like. And to lose both of them, that was a big loss. But to add the loss of, losing a child was, like you said, they're so different.
Hmm.
And so I always reach out to her and, try to support her and give her positive words. And so if you're listening to us right now, don't say those words. You don't
Yeah,
know,
that's
you don't know somebody's journey. And so it's, for
it's
me, the
better
other
to keep
part,
your mouth shut than say something that
yes,
ignorant.
please. Yes. Or
Yeah.
just, I had somebody say to me, and this was really powerful, April. Somebody said to me, because there was all kinds of rumors around Matt's passing. He was drinking and driving. He was a
Yeah.
single car accident.
Hmm.
But I found out like later, people were saying he committed suicide, like all these things, which were so far from the truth. And I mean, you could say, yeah, he made reckless decisions, but that he didn't intentionally do that. And
Right.
so I had somebody say, came up to me, they go, "Bro, I just don't know what to say." I said, "That's the best thing you can say to me. It's just,
Yeah,
I
like
don't
thank
know
you for
what to
that
say."
honesty.
Yeah, I'd rather you be like, I don't come around because I'm not sure what to say or how to support. And I tell them all the time, what you just did was the best support and the best thing you could say to me or anybody that's grieving, because there's no words they can say. Nothing's going to bring my child back. Nothing's going to change the situation. Just having that support and knowing that, hey, I could pick up the phone and call somebody. It's really amazing.
Right.
I ran into one of so Matt had a friend and he passed. So we had hurricanes last year, October. So he passed around our hurricanes last year. I didn't know about it till a couple of days after. So his mom was actually our pharmacist at our pharmacy up the street here at Walgreens, and Matthew and her son and my son were very, very close. And when I saw it, I went right to her house. She wasn't there, but her husband was there. And he said, "Pearl, the hardest thing, unfortunately, he did something that was laced with fentanyl, so it took his life. But
Ugh.
he said that, people have made comments that, well, he was just hanging out with bad people. And he said, Pearl, our boys hung out together. We're not bad people. I go, no, we're not bad people. Our kids just make bad choices.
Well, and kids are
And
fucking kids. That's what they
yeah,
do.
and that's what I
It's
told
part
him.
of evolution.
Yeah. I'm like, and,
Newsflash.
and that's exactly what I said. I go, I said, if somebody would say that to me, I said, and I will encourage you, if somebody says that to you again, look at them and say, can you look in the mirror and say you're a perfect parent and your
Yeah.
kids are doing perfect choices? The answer is going to be no.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they make bad choices, and we do the best that we can to
Yeah.
support and be there.
Yeah, for sure. And with that in mind, I have had people say really shitty stuff to me, just blatantly ignorant shit and no filter whatsoever.
Wow.
And in those moments, yeah, for sure, it triggered me a lot. But it took a while for me to really understand that someone that could say something like that is also and they have such a judgmental mindset that they're just as shitty to themselves.
Right.
So I just go, consider the source. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
And then just make sure that you're not allowing people like that in your space.
Yeah, something that I started doing because I started going back. I remember when we first adopted Matthew. Matthew was mixed race, of
Okay.
course, and so my husband and I are very Caucasian, and so we went the first. We he was born in July, and so that December, that the first Christmas we had with him, my parents came out to visit with us and have the first Christmas with us, and so we were at the mall, and this lady walked up and she's like, "Oh, your husband must be a really good-looking black man," and my mom's mouth just fell to the floor. She's like, "Oh my God." And because I my response back was, "No, he's not, because he's not. He's a very Italian, white man, right?" So I just responded that way. And my mom just looked at me, she goes, "Like you didn't say that." I go, "Mom, people are just dumb when they say things." So we go around in the mall a little while later, and she runs into me at this pen store. I'm buying some pens for my loan officers. And she says again, she goes, "I just have to ask you again, like he must be very stout, very like he must work out and you got kinky hair." I'm like, "No, he doesn't." And my mom was like, "You're just so calm." I go, "Mom, people just say stupid things.
Right.
They don't know." And so I've kind of like been bringing myself back to that. I go back to when Matt was an infant, now that he's not here, I go back and I'll just say, well, like I've said something, somebody said, "Well, how did he pass?" And I'll say, "Well, why does it make a difference?"
Well, right. Yeah.
It doesn't make a difference how he passed. He's just not here anymore, and
Yeah.
and things like that. So I just go back to that. People, like you just said, people, they have their own stuff. They don't address their own stuff. So then they want
Right.
to do things, and I've even done Mama Bear for Matthew from the graveside. I mean, Matthew got connected, and Matt had gone through rehab for alcohol, and he was connected with this group of they basically take the Bible and they twist it all upside down and they talk about, if you're not from the color of the ground, you're these bad people. And so when Matt had passed, like I said earlier, I didn't know it, but like 6 months later, I found out they had these YouTube videos about our son and about how
Ugh.
they had cursed him and all this stuff, right? So
What? Are
yeah, so
you serious?
it was horrible.
Ugh.
So his friend is telling me, right? I'm like, what? So I literally, because I had their phone number, because when Matt went to rehab, he was renting from them, and we were covering rent through Matt's bank account for a few months while they got a new roommate. So I had the number, and I just called, and Matt's girlfriend, who still is part of our family, she was sitting there, she's watching me, she goes, "Mama Pearl, you are a bear sometimes." I'm like, I just picked up the phone and go, I was just like, I just addressed him. Like, if this is your grandmother, how would your grandmother feel about something? And they're like, they try to come up with all these excuses. And I'm like, listen, nobody's going to scare me from fighting for what I believe in. Even if he was here, I would still do it, and
Yeah.
things like that. So I don't, um, I don't, worry about what people say. I just take a deep breath. I count to five sometimes before I respond. We have a
Hmm.
family member to April. We have a family member right now that we're not speaking to her right now because we found out that she got mad because during the planning of the funeral and everything, we took and made her, we're going to have to make her get an Uber. And we had more family
Oh, because
coming
you
to,
couldn't be at her beck and call.
yeah. And we had more family coming in than we ever expected. So one of my friends was gracious enough to give us 3 hotel rooms. And
Hmm.
originally I told her, "Hey, I'll give you a room." But then I found out we had a lot of family at an Airbnb, and I had somebody else that needed a room. So I said, "You know what? I'm going to put you with the family at the Airbnb. I'm going to give this room to so and so." She's still mad to this day because I did that. And I literally said to her, I pray to God that, her daughter and our cousin, we've helped her just recently. I'm like, I don't want you to walk this journey, but if you're going to be mad about that, you can't be in my life right now. That kind of attitude, I would rather have my son here than worry about you had to take an Uber or go stay with family.
Yeah.
So so I will put boundaries around
Yeah.
situations,
I
100%.
had to also, and I definitely have had to draw some lines with family. And actually, it's a true story. After you and I sat down on your podcast, I had shared the link um, in memory of my daughter's passing because it happened to be,
It was really close
it was like
around.
right on her day of death, right? It
Yeah.
was like right on that day or something like that. So I shared it, and I kid you not, one of the abusive people from her dad's side that I have not spoken to in over 10 years, 14 years, something like that, popped up on that thread and said something really shitty about my grief journey. And they're like, she said something to the effect of, "Why do you even post like you're a caring mom when you don't even go to her grave?" Is something like what she said. And I was like, clearly this person is you know,
Clueless.
clueless because and they think that they get to approve of my grief journey. But
Right.
it wasn't worth a response because people like that aren't. So
Right.
I just thank you for block buttons on Facebook because
Yes,
these people are
exactly.
fucking morons.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how she got through anyway because I've had them blocked since
Yeah.
forever because her and her dad and his parents were extremely abusive.
Right.
And part of the big story as to why Brielle's not here.
Right.
So it was just fascinating because we even spoke on those things
Yeah.
on your podcast,
Yeah,
and
we
then she
did.
just
It's just
confirmed it. So I'm like, way to go, you fucking idiot. Like, damn.
The universe is
Yeah.
a very interesting thing. I'm telling
Yeah.
you, the universe is so powerful, and it shows us who should and shouldn't be in our life. And that's one thing I love about the universe. It's one thing, like saying yes to my life has allowed me to understand that boundaries are a beautiful thing, and
Yeah,
that boundaries are, it's really for the person that we're setting the boundaries. It's for us too,
it
but
is.
really the people who try to break our boundaries are the reason why we put the boundaries up. It's
Well,
so,
right, because unfortunately, a lot of people are so committed to a version of us that they could manipulate, and we were people pleasers, and we were always trying to keep the peace and make everybody happy. And they're committed to that version. We're not. We've
yeah,
outgrown that version.
yeah,
And so then it
100%.
pisses them off, and we make enemies when, hey, you can't push us around anymore.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah,
true. I
yeah,
love paying it forward. I have I last year I got to go spend some time with my nephew. My brother, he's doing great now, but my brother went through a cancer journey, and so where he had to go for his treatments was a little bit further from home. So I went and spent time with my nephew, and so we got to really get to know one another. And so whenever I go out to the West Coast, I try to make time to go visit him. And just recently, somebody's come back into my brother's life and having contact with my nephew. And I happened to be there, and the person was saying, "Who is that? Who's there?" And I saw my nephew get like very scared about saying who it was because it's somebody I have boundaries around. And so the next day, while him and I were spending time together, I said to him, I go, "Listen, you do not have to give an excuse for anything. You can just say to that person, you know what? I've just called to talk to you, not to talk about anybody else, right?" He's in fifth grade, just started
yeah,
fifth grade. And so
right.
my sister-in-law shared with me recently that he was talking to this person, and the person was asking about the other grandmother and some other stuff. And she said, "Your nephew said to them, I've just called to talk to you. I'm not calling for other things." I'm like, yes, I love it. I can
Yeah.
teach a young mind that, say yes to you and set boundaries.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's actually perfect because my youngest daughter and I had that talk this morning, because she's had to deal with some people pleasing and stuff living under her dad's roof and how toxic that environment was for her. It was emotionally neglectful and it was
Right.
kind of volatile at times. And she was talking about how she laid a boundary out with them recently because they like to really say horrible things about me. And she was like, "Look, I'm not comfortable with this. Like, I want to see you, but you don't get to like say all these horrible things about my mom."
Right. Good
And
for
and
her.
that and so she's trying to learn that she has a voice and how necessary that is too. And it's hard,
So that's
it's
amazing.
hard work. It's consistent work. That's
Yeah,
the
it's
thing.
very
It's you
much.
have to stay so consistent because the moment you don't, that's where there's that window of flexibility and people take advantage of that.
Yep.
So it's one of those things where once you start, you can't fucking stop. You have to just keep at
You
it.
have to. And the minute you let somebody break that boundary, it's can be very toxic for you, and
Yeah.
it's can be unhealthy for you. I remember when I first started my boundaries, I was actually at a women's retreat at my church, and we got to spend time with our pastor, and my parents were just going through their divorce after 43 years of marriage. And I was 40, I was around 40 years old, and I told him how I felt like I was like a 7-year old being pulled, and he's like, "Pearl, listen, what's your favorite sport?" I'm like, "Football." He goes, "Okay, there's usually 12 men on the team, right? Something like that, 11 men on the field." I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "So there's some that sit in a bench." He goes, "If they can't play by your game of your what you want, the rules you set up for your life, they can sit in the bench.
There
And
you
if you want to
go.
let them in and play again and they don't play, they can permanently sit in the bench." I was like,
Yeah.
I have lived by that for so long now. I
It's
mean,
so true.
it's been so powerful. I mean, as I said earlier, I divorced my parents. My dad, like you said, all of a sudden he got my phone number somehow, and he sends me a message and says, because I evidently he read my message for like almost like before COVID. It's been a long time that I sent him a message, an obituary of him being my dad, because I found out he'd been racist to my son. And
Ugh.
so he must have just read it. So it was right shortly about a year after Matt passed. It was shortly after we did our interview together. And he sent me this long message how my son deserved what he got. I'm like going, oh my gosh. So
Wow.
so glad a confirmation that you should not be
Oh,
in my life, you know?
yeah.
And so it's like those little signs. And then like my mom, I through my parents' divorce, again, she chose not to speak to me because I was trying to have a relationship with both of them.
Yeah.
And so she come back in my life, shortly before Matt passed. And then when Matt passed, we didn't have the money to bury him, and I really wanted to bury him. And she offered to help pay for the funeral. I'm like, Mom, we kept pushing her away. We don't have it. Don't have it. We just have to cremate him. Blah blah blah. And she, no, no, she insists, and don't worry about paying me back. So then other things happen. So now she's going, you got to pay me back. I'm like, whoa, this is,
This is not what we
this
agreed
is not what we
to.
agreed to. This is
Yeah.
toxic. So I'm like, no, I just, and I just told my husband, I go, I have to put the boundaries up. And I say all that because people say to me all the time, how can you not talk to your parents? And
Yeah.
I say,
It's
because like
pretty
with your
easy,
daughter,
actually.
yeah, because I just like you said about your daughter, toxic relationship. I'm like,
Yeah.
so if my husband was treating me the way they're treating me, you're telling me I should stay with him? Well, no, I'm like, it's no different. It's
Yeah.
no different. It's just a different relationship, but it's no different.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, I don't have a close relationship with my actual sperm donor. He's
Mm-hmm.
not the man that raised me anyway. Another
Right.
man, I had a different dad that raised me, and he died when I was about 14. But my biological dad, we're not close either because he's got that very controlling, I like to bulldoze and tear people apart and shame them
Right.
if they're not what I think they should be kind of thing.
Right.
And there are brief moments in the last, I guess I really had to finally cut him out mostly after like 2016. Like that was kind of like the last straw for me. But there's been brief moments, maybe once or twice, where um, we saw him for a minute, and within less than an hour was already back on, you know, just
Right.
showing his colors.
Right.
And those are those moments where, again, you use the football analogy, but it's like, okay, I'm open to having a relationship with you, but not if I can't see you're actually having any growth. If you're having
Right.
no growth and you're still this
Yeah.
version, we got nothing in common, buddy.
Yeah.
Sorry, sorry,
Yeah.
not sorry. Like,
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm not gonna allow you a place in my life at
Yeah.
all until I feel like you know how to show up with respect for others.
Yeah, and that's part of like that's why I created the whole, I've created this called, it's called a Keep It Simple SHERO. It's a whole method and movement of how to go from, we start with identifying what brings you joy because
Yeah,
doing the things that bring you joy allows you to go, oh, does that person fit into my joy world? And if they don't,
right.
then there's we talk about what kind of boundaries. It doesn't mean that everybody you cannot, you don't talk to everybody, but there's certain you create boundaries based on different relationships,
Yeah,
right? And so my friend Lisa, she calls it your balcony people. Who's the 5 people you want in your balcony that you know will have your back?
yeah,
And if they don't fit that balcony, then you just be like, okay, I'll interact with you, but around the time that I want to, And so that's why I've been on this whole movement. That's why I still do my retreats because
yeah,
it's really about, resetting and reclaiming and unleashing things in your life that don't serve you anymore. And hopefully nobody has to, it's somebody else is going to join our club. Unfortunately, it's going to lose a child. And hopefully we inspire them somehow to know that we can still live while we honor our child's memory,
yeah, because we're
and
humans and we have
yeah,
polarity and we can do it all.
right.
I would agree with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So, can you tell me, I think I didn't ask, I was going to ask you what the acronym of SHERO actually stands for. Can you let us
Yeah,
know?
so absolutely. So SHERO stands for strong, happy, empowered, radiant, and original self.
Okay.
So I tell her all the time when I speak on stages, men can be sheroes too. It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with the male or female anatomy. It has to do with the fact that you can become stronger by doing things in your life. We're talking about boundaries, which will allow you to become happier, which
Hmm.
then to empower you to do things. I have to tell you, one of the things that Matthew wanted to do when he was here in the living world was he wanted to write a book about raising children of a different culture.
Okay.
And so, I empowered him to do that. I'll tell you about that in one second, which
Okay.
then leads you to becoming radiant. When you start walking the first three, you start to show up and glow up in your life like you're
Yeah.
supposed to. Like
Yeah.
whoever you believe in your higher being wants you to, because then what happens? You become the original person you were meant to be. When I start my podcast, I talk about, what did you want to be when you were a little girl, April, right? And we correlate
Mhm.
that to who you are today. Because
Mhm.
when we come into this world, genetically, it's been
So
decided
funny
what our
story, I also wanted to be a teacher.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I tease and go, I wasn't meant to do it when they were little. I was meant to do it when they were adults, and so I'm teaching now. And so, that's what the SHERO stands for. And so interesting enough, one of the things that we decided to do, we thought we were going to do it like, okay, so if you're listening to this, stop letting your head block you from things that are supposed to happen. So we wanted to do this book. Matt was 25 when he passed. He passed 2 weeks after his birthday on July 25th. His birthday was 7/7/97. He passed 7/25/20 um 22. Yeah,
Mhm.
22. And then we were like, let's do this book. So in our head, I wanted 25 authors. And my friend, I wasn't getting 25. We're sitting at seven, sitting at seven, sitting at seven. A year ago, this past March, we're still sitting at seven. And my friend said, Pearl, what if it's supposed to be seven? Seven, seven. All Matthews are sevens. What if
Okay.
it's supposed to be the seven? So I was just like, you know what? I'm going to give it to the universe. And we literally last month on his third anniversary of his passing, we released the book. It's called Beyond Skin Deep Stories of Cross-Cultural Adoptions with 7 families who share their story of adoption of
Uh,
different nationalities. And so it's our way of honoring him. It's again goes to, how do we do this grief journey? So this book is becoming that way of honoring him. And in November, we have National Adoption Month. So we're going to go do some launches with it during that a month. And so that allowed his, empowered him. That was his empowered story he wanted to share. So we carried it forward for him. So
yeah.
Shiro, like I said, you don't have to be a female to be a Shiro. What are you doing in your life that you're showing up for yourself stronger, that's going to allow you to be happier, that's going to empower you to do things that maybe you set on a shelf. Maybe, I've had women come to my retreat. I laugh and say I lose all my service providers when they come to my retreat. Sometimes I'm like, don't come, I don't want to lose you. I lost my esthetician. She decided after my first retreat, she wanted to go make soaps. She makes amazing soaps. I lost my dog groomer. I don't know if you know who Gabby Patino is that we lost here in Florida.
I don't.
She was a nomad and her boyfriend took her life. So my dog groomer, when she came to my third retreat, she decided that she was going to take her, I think, 4 kids, 3 dogs, and her husband. They sold everything, got in a Bluebird bus, and they traveled around the U.S.
Okay.
So funny enough, I mean, not funny, but interesting enough, they ended up over in, I think it was Wyoming or Teton. I don't remember where it was exactly where they found Gabby Patino, but they pulled up
Okay.
into the state park. They saw this Florida license plate on this van, like, oh, we'll have to go back and check it out. They went back, the van was gone, but her son, she's also a mom who's lost a child,
Okay.
Ethan. So September is always pay it forward for Ethan. And so it was September. She woke up like he was calling her to go look at their GoPros, and they could see something out in the field. So they shared it with the FBI and her parents, and that's how they found Gabby.
Uh,
So my retreats have all these connections. Like I'm supposed to do this. And so, doing these things that, by becoming a Shiro has led me to do these things, that become powerful for other women. I've helped
yeah.
a couple women since last year's retreat. I have 2 women that have started their own business and quit their jobs. They're doing the things that kind of put in the shelf, and that's what becoming your Shiro self is about. Is what do you have sitting on your shelf? Because we don't know if you're going to be here tomorrow, like we said earlier. And
Yeah.
so, what are you doing to live that dash? Is what I want you to do.
Yeah. You know what I love about this, the fact that you talked about, I think when you first started talking about this, you talked about the emphasis on joy. And what I
Mhm.
love about that, what stands out to me about that is we're so conditioned and programmed and used to staying small that most of us are so busy with life that we forget what joy is and what even brings us joy. And in order to learn how our body speaks and communicates to us about our needs, we have to experience joy so that way when there's a disruptor of joy, we can peg it.
Yes.
Oh, this is my body didn't like this. And without those joys, you don't know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So when you have those highs and those joys and that peace, and then there's the disruptor, it's a lot louder and a lot easier to say, hey, that's a fucking red flag.
Yep.
This
Yep.
doesn't belong here. Let's
Yeah.
boot that out of the system. So it's really impactful to have those hobbies and those joys because that's
Yeah.
how you learn how to discern.
Yep.
what's not healthy for you anymore.
Yeah, it's the first thing that I work on with my clients. So I have different options, but my 6 month, we always start, no matter what program you come into with me, we always start with a joy list. And what's interesting is I tell my clients, you're going to give me 10 things that bring you joy. They're like, oh, I can nail them off. You're not going to name them off right now. It's going to take
Yeah.
you 6 weeks to unpack your joy list. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, because you're not going to tell me, oh, my kids bring my joy. Well, my kids bring me joy too. However, why do they bring you joy? Like, I want to know. And you're going to answer, okay, why does that matter? Why does that matter? Why does that? I have a hairdresser. I
Yeah.
did it with a hairdresser. And she's like, oh, I love cutting hair. I'm like, that's great. I can go up here and go to the barber and have my hair cut. Why does me sitting in your chair bring you joy? And as we
Yeah.
broke it down, she's like, well, they come in, they're not having a great day. I'm like, okay, so what about that brings you joy? Well, they get
Hmm.
to sit in a chair and I get to change, cut their hair and color their hair. That's great. What about that brings you joy? And as we
Yeah.
got down to it, the reason why she likes cutting hair is because the women that walk in, and we can both agree, we tell our hairdressers everything. They're like our
Right.
therapists. So they come in and they unload everything that's on their mind, everything that's in their heart, and they unload it. And so not only are they releasing what's inside, but on the outside, she's helping them look a lot more beautiful than when they walked in the door. So when
Right.
they leave this transformed person, at least for a little bit of time, a glimpse of time. I'm like, that's why you cut hair. It's because for a glimpse of time, you help women feel better about themselves from the inside out. And she's like, I never thought about it that way. And it's like, so
Mhm.
it took us like, that was an hour session that we took to break and compact that down. And I'm like, so you think you're going to give me 10 things like that? I'm like, no, 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 not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely worth like unlayering all the whys to get to that
Yeah.
root.
Yeah.
What makes you tick, you
Yeah,
know?
100%. Well,
Yeah.
and then on top of that, what you have to do too, April, is then you have to talk about what's my not to do list. And it's like the negative self-talk, not having boundaries,
Hmm.
those things that keep you from enjoying your joy list, letting other people's problems or other people's emotions stop me from going to the beach because I think I need to people please and go sit in their house with them. No, I'm going to go to the beach. You want to come and get a time away? If you really want to help them, tell them get in your car and go to the beach with you. The beach is a beautiful thing. And we live in Florida. I can be there in like 40 minutes. So
Yeah.
those kind of things. And I have a front porch swing on my porch. So I often see the women, coming to school. There's a school across the street from me, and they're sitting in their car. And I go knock on the window. My husband's like, "You are so funny." I go knock on the window. I'm like, "Hey, I got a front porch swing. Get outside, get in nature. Stop listening to your car. Don't scroll your phone. Come sit in the porch." So he started coming home a couple times. Like, do you know there's some lady sitting on the porch? I go, "Oh yeah, just leave her alone. She's fine."
You're just like, let her be. She's enjoying the world.
So yeah, so it's just, finding those moments for ourselves is so, so
Yeah.
important.
So with that being said too, if we're talking to people that are brand new in their journey of um, trying to implement boundaries and get better at not being so available, what do you think are like subtle ways that some of those things can kind of creep back in and you can say no without feeling guilty? Because we all know that there's a process there, right?
Yeah. So I think it also looks back, like we just said a second ago, like looking at your joy list. If
Hmm.
that thing or that person that you want to go do, how does it equate to, does it take time away from what you got on your list and your joy list? Like I'm looking at right now, I have in front of me my vision board for the year is straight ahead of me. By quarter, it's like the third quarter sitting right here to my right of me, right? So if it doesn't align up with that, then it's got to be no. And I'll give you a great example. So we just went on this cruise, right? So
Okay.
we're on a cruise ship, 11 days. And I said to my husband, I have to work at least 2 hours a day on my business for my retreat. The internet did not like me, did not want to give me that time. I get on the
Okay.
airplane, bam, I knock it out of the park, no problem on the Wi-Fi in the airplane. I should have known better.
Yeah.
But so when I came home, like I have these network meetings that I go to, and I reached out to everybody and said, you're not going to see me the month of August and the month of September. August, because I'm going on a retreat. When I get back, I got to prepare for my retreat. I'm going on vacation rather. And September, because I have my retreat, and then I'm also going to go for a training after my retreat to do stuff for me. And so I set those expectations up front. Now, there's a chapter of an amazing network group of women that I've joined, and I told them I would start a chapter in October. So the only thing I said around my boundaries is I will promote that event, but I
Hmm.
will not be showing up for other events in the group because I've got these commitments and I have
Right.
to have these commitments. So it's part of like communicating, right? And also, oftentimes people think that self-care is selfish. Like, you can do some things. Like I said a few minutes ago, if you're going to go to the beach and somebody wants you, tell them to get in the car with you and go to the beach with you.
Yeah.
You can help them and help you be at the ocean at the same time.
But also, only people that are selfish would be calling it selfish. So,
Right, exactly. And then the things like, like I remember when I first started my journey of overcoming people pleasing, like I said, I told my husband and my kids, I'm like, so here's the thing. I'm going to go in here and do this. And unless the house is on fire or somebody has to go to the hospital, don't bother me.
yeah.
So you can
Yeah.
communicate to them. The funny thing is when I did this journey, my Matthew, he was a football player at high school. So we would go and he had horrible football feet. So we would go together to get mani and petties and I would get the mani, he'd just get the petty. But we would end up having these conversations, and our nail tech would laugh at us because we talk sex, drugs, and rock and roll while we're sitting there getting our nails done.
Right.
So there's that too. It's like you can, but if it's impeding on what's bringing you joy, it has to be a complete no. And
Yeah.
there's no guilt in it. The biggest thing that happened for me, the one big aha I got from that was by me saying no. I actually found I started becoming a connector, and people will tell you Pearl's a
Yeah.
great connector because I may not, I may have said to you, April, being on your show, it's just not a good fit for me. And I may know so and so. So
Right.
then I can say connect. So it's like I'm saying no for me, but I'm introducing you to somebody else that might be a better yes for
Right.
you.
So it's like,
Yeah,
I can't do this part, but I can do this part. So it's
correct.
still, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
I know that when I first started my people pleasing healing journey, which was years ago, the thing you had the thing with the rock that you did 3 times a day. I did it a little different. I just said from now on, I'm going to start saying no as often as I can. Like as much as fucking possible all day long to every fucking thing. I don't care how big or small. I'm going
Right,
to start saying no because by saying no, I was still saying yes to me.
right.
Right. And so that's kind of how I had to do it. And I would tell if I was kind of falling back into something because I would feel resentment. The moment
Mm,
I felt resentment, I was like, oh, because now I just betrayed myself
correct.
by
Yeah,
agreeing to something I really didn't want to do. And
yeah.
so those were like the two things that just kind of kept me going.
Yeah. I mean, I just joined this group. I joined them 3 months ago, but Jeremy called me. I was like, Pro, you haven't been in, you're in for 3 months. I'm like, okay, I'm going to show up. So on Wednesday, it was a perfect timing for me to show up because I I had was in there and one of the things they were talking about was, commitments and things like that. And what Jeremy said, it's called Moxie Tribe. And what Jeremy said was like, if you give 1% of your time to you, it is powerful. 1% of your day is about 15 minutes of time for you. And so
Yeah.
if you sit down at your computer and put everything away or whatever you got to do, give 15 minutes of that time to that thing, it ends up becoming, because it's something you like to do, it ends up becoming more time. And you find out you're doing more things of the stuff that you like to do. I was like,
Yeah.
that is so powerful. If I just give myself 1% of my day, if I
Yeah.
just give myself 1% of the day, that's 15 minutes of my day
Which, when you
represent my
think about it,
1%.
it shouldn't be that hard.
Right.
But for the rest of the world, it kind of is.
Right.
Like people
Yeah.
aren't used to how do I show up for myself? Their mindset, they don't even think like that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're worth 1% of your day is what I tell everybody now.
Yeah. No, it's true though. If I
Yeah.
can even get more than that, I'm gonna take
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So I was gonna say, was there anything else that we didn't touch on that you want to touch on?
No, I think the only thing I would say is that, if any of this resonates with anybody, like don't ever feel like you're alone. Like people
Right.
pleasing can feel so lonely because you feel like, I was just talking about somebody that one of my clients the other day. She's like, I show up for everybody, and when I need something, they don't show up, and we get so upset about it. And I'm like, why are you getting upset? We can't get upset about it. We put that expectation on us to show up for them. They don't know how to show up for us because it's not
Right.
something they do because you show up for them. So we can't, you're going to get disappointed every time you think, well, I do for them. Why did they do for me? Forget
Yeah.
it. Don't even like get that out of your head. It's not going to happen. What you have to do is stop doing for them. Stop showing up for them. Start saying, you know what? I'm not available at that time. If you want to still do something, then then tell them what your boundaries are, you know. But I would just say, like, if you're struggling with any of this, and somebody's, you know, worrying and struggling, I know you're going to put show notes on, you know, how do people reach out, you know.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
always give a 15-minute free tea with me because I'm not a coffee drinker, but you can certainly
Me
have a
either, girl. Me either.
cup of tea with me. You know, I may or may not have a cold glass of tea with me, but you know, so it's just something. You know, I don't want anybody. You know, mostly I work with women, but I don't, especially women, want them to be waking up at night worrying. You know, I want them to be able to take back their life without guilt. And so, if they don't know how to
Yeah.
start, then just start with one thing that's on your joy list.
Yeah. That's absolutely great advice. I felt like I had something to add to that and then it just escaped my brain. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I didn't have something to add to that then.
It's all
Yeah, okay. But maybe that's because it was perfect just the way it was.
Yes,
So yeah.
right.
So Pearl, thank you so much for being here with me today. I know that, again, a little backtracking, but I know that we met in not the funnest way, but I do love that we have so much in common with our missions and our life journey,
Yes.
and so I think that can be powerful by itself.
100%. I think the more we get this kind of talk out there, this movement out there, and people realize, the better off I think the world will be.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Okay, well, if you don't have anything else to add, I'm going to go ahead and stop it here. So let me just say goodbye to everybody. See y'all next time.